We're going from a supernatural abridged series to a supernatural series made famous by an abridged series. Sort of. Hellsing, and by extent its more faithful remake Hellsing Ultimate, are already fairly regarded by fans and critics alike, and it just so happened that the gods of abridges made the franchise timeless in their run's quotability. But the original 2001 series itself isn't as often talked about in comparison to Ultimate or the Team 4-star adaptation. So let's do that, because it is a fun time all around, even with its many problems. In the foggy streets of London, vampires run rampant. It's up to the Hellsing agency to eradicate the monsters before they take over the world, with the devilish Alucard being the unit's strongest hunter. When an officer named Saris is dragged into the supernatural fight, she's turned into a vampire like Alucard to fight fire or fire. In the misadventures of the zombie-crushing, Nazi-punching vampire-slaying duo wants to become of the city and of Europe as they may accidentally a war. So, to get this out of the way, one of the biggest critiques surrounding the original Hellsing is how unfaithful it is to the original source material. It diverges from the story a bit, adding or overlooking certain characters from what I hear, and it's just all around not as diabolical or suspenseful as it should be. Well, as someone who hasn't read the manga, nor would that affect my opinion if I had, while that is somewhat of a bummer to hear, it's still pretty good from what I've seen, omissions notwithstanding. For what it gives you, it's still a noticeable effort to tell a creepy tale, and it's clear it's supposed to be its own thing, like the original FMA. Alucard and Saris are the right type of dynamic for a story like this. A monster who fights to keep his twisted place in the world safe, and a former human struggling to hold on to her dwindling humanity. They're fun and distinguished leads that you can't help but wonder more about. While I think the rest of the characters aren't as interesting, except for that one lady director, they're fine. Many of the conflicts boil down to villain of the week type encounters that aren't that great, but again, you may not be here for the villains anyway. What you are here for are those grisly and gruesome scenes, and they're there. Okay, I won't act like they aren't awful and bloody because they are, and I'm sure they got away with what they could at the time, but the violence isn't really all that impressive. It's just a bunch of shooting and vampiring going around with splashes of red here and there. Again, I'm sure they did what they could to remain faithful to the Hellsing story, but it's just okay all things considered. Luckily, the story has a little more substance. Like I said, Saris' dilemma is well put, and the Hellsing organization's warfare with secrecy and vampires adds on to the high-stakes nature of the country's fate. Though I did always find it weird that the soldiers still treated Saris like a pushover even after she turned into a vampire. Like, the moment this chick picks up a 110-pound machine gun like a plastic toy, I'm making sure she has all the ammo ready with no problem, but that's just me. But my favorite part of the show is the aesthetic. It's always night, so you have excellent night shots with phenomenal ways in playing with the lighting and shadows. And the overall Victorian-esque feel of the country is just cool to me. It can look pretty grimy at times, and some of the animation itself isn't too impressive, but it does maintain this great quality of the shading and colors, and it's not all that bad. And as an off note, I usually don't comment on the dubs of these as they aren't usually a focal point or deciding factor in these reviews, but it's filled with fake Cockney and Scottish accents that make it a little harder to take it seriously. So yeah, the sub's the way to go unless you want to laugh. The original Hellsing series is good, but I don't particularly feel all too strong about it either. I can't recommend its manga because, again, I haven't read it, but when it comes to the adaptations, this one's not a bad watch. Granted, it could be better, and it does, eventually, but standalone, Hellsing's kinda neat. It has a great look and feel to it, the characters do have substance to them, and the story's one of those that aren't too edgy or reserved, but just the right amount of a thriller to keep you engaged while not incredibly strong in bringing anything really new. While it's not super gory or anything like that, that's not a total deal breaker, and its pros outweigh its cons by at least a little. Sometimes a fun story is just that, and Hellsing is just that. Take that opinion for what it is, and go on into the night.